The plates rattled faintly in her hands, but no one seemed to notice. The laughter of diners, the clinking of glasses, and the hum of conversation drowned out the quiet tremor that betrayed her strength was fading. She moved from table to table with the smile she had learned to wear like armor, hiding the storm brewing inside. Her apron looked tidy, her hair pulled back neatly, but her fingers trembled against the tray. The truth was, she hadn't eaten a proper meal in 2 days. Her body was begging for rest, for relief, for someone to see her, not just the waitress delivering food. And then it happened. Just as she set down a cup of coffee at a corner table, one man looked up, not at the menu, not at his phone, but directly at her. He noticed. He saw the shaking. And in a moment that would change everything, he reached out and gently held her hand. Sparkles, before we go deeper into this powerful story, if you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the beauty of helping others when they need it most, please like this video, share with your friends, and subscribe to our channel Hopeful Stories for more heart-touching tales like this one. Your support helps us spread light where it's needed the most. Sparkles. Her name was Emily Carter, a 27-year-old woman from Columbus, Ohio. Once upon a time, she had dreams like anyone else, studying nursing, working in hospitals, helping people heal. But life had other plans. 2 years ago, tragedy struck when her mother, the only family she truly had left, passed away after a sudden illness. Emily dropped out of college to work full-time, trying to cover the medical bills that piled up like mountains. Debt collectors called almost daily, and no matter how much she worked, it never seemed enough. She found herself in a cycle. Work, pay, survive, repeat. Each day felt heavier than the one before. The diner where she worked wasn't glamorous. It was a small, family-run place off a highway in Ohio, filled with the smell of frying bacon and the chatter of regulars. She worked long shifts, sometimes 12 hours straight, carrying trays, wiping counters, smiling at customers who often forgot to look at her face. And lately, her body had been betraying her. Exhaustion seeped into her bones. Her hands trembled constantly, and sometimes she caught herself leaning against the kitchen wall just to keep from collapsing. But she couldn't afford to stop. Rent was due. Bills kept coming. She couldn't fail. Not now. Not when she was already hanging on by a thread. That night, the diner was busier than usual. Families with kids, truck drivers grabbing late meals, couples laughing over burgers. Emily moved through it all like a ghost with a tray in her hand. Her vision blurred for a moment as she placed an order on a table, but she blinked it away. No one noticed. They never did. Until she reached a small corner booth where a man in his 40s sat quietly with a notebook open beside him. He was dressed simply in a navy jacket and a white shirt, sipping on a coffee as though he had nowhere else to be. She set the fresh cup down in front of him, but her hand shook so badly that the cup rattled against the saucer. For the first time all evening, someone looked, not just glanced, but truly looked. His eyes followed her trembling hands, the strain in her face she tried to hide, and the faint exhaustion in her shoulders. Without hesitation, he reached across the table, placed his warm hand gently over hers, and said softly with his eyes more than words, "I see you." That one touch was enough to break her fragile composure. She froze, fighting the sting of tears that threatened to fall. She quickly pulled her hand back, mumbling an apology, but the man didn't brush it off. He watched her carefully, the way someone looks at another human being, not just a server. As she walked away, trying to swallow the lump in her throat, something inside her shifted. She realized how rare it was for someone to notice, for someone to care. Later that night, when the rush slowed and most tables emptied, the man was still there, writing in his notebook. Emily, curious but cautious, brought him the bill. He looked at her and said quietly, "You don't look okay. When's the last time you ate?" She wanted to laugh it off, but the truth pressed hard against her chest. She hadn't eaten since yesterday. She worked so much that she often skipped meals to save money. He slid the plate of food he hadn't touched toward her and said, "Please, sit." She hesitated. Servers didn't sit with customers. But something about his calm sincerity broke her walls. She sat. And for the first time in what felt like forever, she ate a warm meal that wasn't rushed scraps from the kitchen. As she ate, tears blurred her vision. It wasn't just the food. It was the simple act of kindness, the acknowledgement that she mattered. Between bites, she shared a little of her story, her mother, her debts, her long hours. She didn't know why she was telling him, but it felt like talking to someone who wouldn't judge. He listened quietly, never interrupting, just letting her release the weight she carried. When she finished, he stood to leave. She thanked him for the food, for noticing. He smiled faintly and said, "Don't give up, Emily. You're stronger than you know. But even the strongest people need help sometimes." He placed a folded piece of paper under the bill and walked out. When she opened it, her hands trembled again, but this time, not from weakness. Inside was a check large enough to cover months of her rent and chip away at her debts. Her knees nearly buckled. She pressed her hand to her mouth, overcome. The man hadn't left his name, only a note that read, "One day, when you're able, help someone else the way you've been helped tonight." From that night, Emily's life didn't magically fix itself. The bills were still there, the work was still hard, but something inside her had changed. She wasn't invisible anymore. She carried the memory of that stranger's kindness like a flame in her chest. Slowly, she began to take better care of herself, eating regularly, resting when she could, and saving bit by bit. And more importantly, she began noticing others the way she had once been noticed. There was the teenage dishwasher who often looked as tired as she once did. She started slipping him extra meals at the end of his shift. There was the single mom who came in with her 2 kids, counting pennies for pancakes. Emily quietly covered their bill one morning. And every time she did, she remembered the stranger's words, "Help someone else." Months later, Emily applied for night classes again, determined to finish her nursing degree. It wouldn't be easy, but the kindness she had received gave her courage. She wanted to be that person for others, not just in a diner, but in hospital rooms where people felt unseen. And though she never saw the man again, she carried him with her. In every act of compassion, in every hand she held at a hospital bedside years later, he was there. One simple moment, a hand held across a diner table, had changed the trajectory of her life. Sparkles, if this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Hopeful Stories. Your engagement helps us continue to share stories that remind the world of the power of kindness and the beauty of second chances. Together, we can make sure no one feels invisible. Sparkles. Speech balloon special request. Comment below with the words, "Kindness matters," if you believe even the smallest act of compassion can change a life. Because sometimes, all it takes is one person who chooses to see what everyone else overlooks. Sometimes, the hand you hold can keep someone from falling apart. And sometimes, the most ordinary moments become extraordinary when kindness walks into the room.